Partner Showcase was definitely something straight out of 2022, complimentary. Plenty of things for the RPG sickos, some games making their Nintendo debuts, and Borderlands 4 getting punted to the sizzle reel. But as the first post-Switch 2 launch showcase, I can definitely see why it fell flat in some circles. A grand opening of a Monster Hunter Stories and a closing of 2 Square Enix HD 2D games does not an all-timer make. Still, there are a few things that, had they been included in the show, could have elevated this to an all-timer, apart from a date for Age of Imprisonment that's a Nintendo Today drop waiting to happen like Metroid Prime 4's. Silksong is supposed to be playable at a museum in Team Cherry's native Australia this fall and in Microsoft's booth at Gamescom later this month, so in theory, we have never been so close to Silksong not coming out. Nintendo has used a partner showcase for a top-tier indie release before in 2020 with the 1.0 of the original Hades, so it's possible that the show could have had some Silksong if by some miracle it's ready to go. But 3 previous announcements are why I believe we are unlikely to get the drop on it in a direct. The original announcement in 2022 that the game would be on Microsoft's Game Pass day 1, the continued attempts by Microsoft and Asus to tie Silksong to the fall launch of the ROG Ally X, and Microsoft having a big show at Gamescom 2025. It feels like if anyone is going to shadow drop Silksong, it's Microsoft, but they have something else to worry about. Microsoft in general, Call of Duty in particular. Speaking of Nintendo's old neighbors, the only tangentially related product we've gotten from the genocide-abetting Microsoft on the Switch 2 is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4. Given that Microsoft is publisher/owner of more than half of the top-selling games on Sony platforms this year, according to Circana, they should have been all up in this grill. Especially with Call of Duty 2026, which is due this fall and currently only slated to launch on PC and systems that start with PlayStation and Xbox. You might recall that in order to get the ABK merger through the courts in, well, most jurisdictions, that Microsoft signed what they claimed was a 10-year deal with Nintendo to get Call of Duty on Nintendo platforms. And as of now, the fruits of that agreement are 404 games not found. Now, it's entirely possible that all of the people who had Nintendo development experience were caught in one of their mass layoffs earlier this year. They sacked their head of player safety for RCS's sake. Or maybe there was an unprecedented partnership, derogatory, with Microsoft that died as soon as Nintendo said a more polite version of, there is no, Carlin word, way we're letting you say our hardware is an Xbox. Who knows? Either way, it's not like anyone's going to bother to take Microsoft to court over it. The original big partner showcase shadow drop could have been a natural fit to show up this week and give an estimate for 1.0 in the console release that was announced in April for the Switch's first. It felt like they had a natural setup for Hades 2 to appear at the show, but it probably wasn't going to happen. The original Hades had its final patch on July 2nd, 2020 and went 1.0 on September 17th, the aforementioned partner showcase day. Hades 2 was originally going to get its final patch before 1.0 a few weeks ago, but apparently something happened because it got, I guess what you'd call an overtime patch on July 23rd, i.e. a week ago Wednesday from the showcase date. At this point, it's equal odds to whether it gets shadow dropped in the next General Direct or just shows up on the eShop one day. We didn't get any kind of release window for the Kingdom Hearts version of Final Fantasy VII in April, just news that the game was coming and then possibly dragging Rebirth behind it in a few years before the trilogy cap or shortly after the heat death of the universe. Although it got one of Nintendo's creator voice spots alongside such luminaries as the Duskbloods, Hades 2, and that WB game we don't talk about, they never really spilled the release window there either. Square Enix was tied with Bandai Namco and EA, somehow, for the busiest third party in the Western show with 4 games each, all of which are slated to launch by the end of 2026. They added new details about Dragon Quest 1+2 HD 2D and announced a Switch 2 patch for 3 in the Japanese show as well. Based on that, they probably didn't have space to talk about FF7 Remake, and that seems like something that could come up in time for a 30th anniversary 2 years hence. My feelings about Elden Ring and most of FromSoft's development work since around the prime of the week can be summed up with a quote from former Olympic and World Wrestling Champion Kurt Angle. Truth be told, I'm not a big fan of the Dark Souls. And if I could go back in time and make any developer in history tap out, it'd be Miyazaki. Any game best played with the old Xbox Live Silver membership is not a game I want to deal with. But apparently I'm alone in this regard, given that Elden Ring sold about 30 million copies worldwide and Crash Games journalism, while its multiplayer Night Rain spin-off is one of the best-selling games of the year. Elden Ring and the Duskbloods were two of the major third-party announcements in the April 2nd Direct, and when this partner showcase was announced, I made a farmer's bet with my roommate that Elden Ring would not only show up, but its release date, more than 2025, would either be the first or last thing shown. Its lack of appearance in the show is half the reason I rolled this in the first place, even if the announcement of two-player matchmaking in Night Rain that week should have been a signal. Now, we're probably going to see a general direct in September, and it's still likely then if it is truly coming out this year. And maybe the showcase was Bandai Namco, the publisher, clearing the decks. But if they dropped a date for Elden Ring in the showcase, the show feels a lot different. Honorable mentions: Professor Layton and the New World of Steam, or Level 5 in general, as suggested by Willem, but not likely given that the new Inazuma 11 is fresh off getting kicked to November. Persona 4 rerun. Let's see more than a minute of footage before we start freaking out about this game missing Switch 2. It'll take you that long to beat Reload anyway. Pokemon Legends ZA. It would have been funny to sneak this in under the Hyrule Warriors rule, but the Pokemon Company is effectively first party and Koei Tecmo isn't. And it got its flowers as the big fall Switch 2 release last week. Monster Hunter Wilds. It barely runs on greater than $9,000 PCs, and you think it'd be ready to show on Switch 2? Not without a Scarlet and Violet level patch fix. Anything else that we missed in the showcase? Leave it in the comments below, and thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to Nintendo World Report TV, and also hit that notification bell because the YouTube subscription boxes work about as well as Monster Hunter Wilds does right now.